My name is Joni Aim, and I'm a digital learning consultant for Green Hills AEA, which if you're not familiar, that's pretty much the southwest quadrant of the state.
I'm Sarah Fink, also a digital learning consultant with Green Hills AEA, also serve our agency as the teacher librarian as well.
And she doesn't think she needs a microphone, so.
We've got a pretty good voice.
So our title is Hands-on AR and VR, and we really want you to have some time to play with those things. So the structure of what we're going to kind of do today, just so you know what to expect, we're going to go through some of these apps, kind of give you an overview of what they do, and try and link it to some of the content. Like, okay, this is cool, but what can we do with this within the content areas? And then we're going to give you time where you can see we kind of have some stations set up around the room. There are checklists, as you can see. Those are for those of you that just need somewhere to start and go through, okay, this is what I would do, this is what I do. You do not have to follow them. It's just kind of a scaffold for those that might be interested in that. And then we'll kind of come back together and talk about what we saw and any ideas that we have. So that's kind of the overview for what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the difference between virtual and augmented reality. Does anybody have a really good definition that they want to share?
Know the definition. I always, right off the top of my head, I have to stop and process and think once in a while too, like AR, VR, like, okay, which one is that really? But go ahead.
So virtual reality is like we think of with the goggles. Like we put them on and we're in a different place. We're looking around, we're on a mountain view, we turn around, look up, look down, and we're somewhere else. The AR, the augmented reality, is when I'm in my own physical space and I can see that physical space around me, but a digital element or a digital overlay is being introduced into that space. So it might be a volcano popping up out of the floor here. That is augmented reality. It's changing something about my reality in the physical space. And again, there's two videos that show the difference between those two. We're not going to watch those videos, but if you wanted to talk about it with your students, those are both by Google, and they're really good examples of what they are.
So in thinking about kind of the why, we always should, start about if we're using something and new to something, we could think about the why. Why? Why should we use AR, VR in education? So those are just a couple quick bullet points there that kind of help us think and frame our minds a little bit around more about why I would use these within my classroom. The first there is just it's contextualized learning. So basically it's just being able to learn about something by maybe be able to transport myself there. So instead of just reading about the Borneo rainforest or reading about ancient Pompeii, Rome, whatever, I can actually transport myself, so to speak, and go there and actually visualize what it is and what it looks like. So more of a contextualized learning. Focused immersion, that's a lot. It's going to drown out a lot of the distractions for kids, and you think that, AR and VR might be a distraction in and of itself for some kids. But once they get started with it and pull up an experience or an expedition or have their hands on, it's just the opposite. They become more engaged with the content that they're thinking about and learning about. And some of those behaviors then disappear that you might see if they're just sitting there stagnant in their seats. So some of that behavior goes away with that focused immersion. Virtual rehearsal, I kind of like this one because it gives that child who may have difficulties being in front of other people. So a couple examples there is like a public speaking. So there's a virtual reality app that you can get that it actually looks like it places you in front of a grand audience, like a big full audience, so that I could then practice my speech or my delivery of my speech, video record myself, and then give myself critique or feedback on my public speaking abilities, so that as I have to then place myself in that real situation, I've practiced that a little bit beforehand. The other one there, of course, is just the virtual dissection. And I also think too, this could be some cost-saving measures for some of your districts. If you're low on funds and can't actually go on field trips or buy all the frogs to come in and get dissected with all the frogs, that really, really good hands-on stuff. AR, VR could just be another avenue for your districts. And then just, of course, the increased engagement and the wow factor that your kids will certainly have with some of these experiences.
So I get to be the naysayer. So we know that there's some really cool things, but there are also some limitations that we're still facing when it comes to AR and VR in the classroom, and we just want to put it out there at the beginning as a for real type of thing. So system requirements, and that is a hyperlink, and that's going to take you to a page I think that was current as of February of this year that lists the different system requirements to be able to actually run some of these programs on your device. So in a nutshell, and this isn't like true for every device, but in a nutshell, anything after 2017 or newer is pretty much going to be okay to run. With a Google or Android device, it has to have what's called an AR core, which is the processor. And with an iOS device, it has to have what's called an AR kit, which is the processor that makes some of this stuff work. And those weren't installed in those devices until after that time period. So there's going to be a couple of exceptions, but that will give you a list of what has it and what doesn't. Mobile devices. So a lot of schools have Chromebooks. Not all of these things are going to work on Chromebooks. The most reliable device that you're going to have for AR and VR is going to be some sort of a mobile device, whether it's a cell phone or an iPad. That's what it's going to work best on. So it needs to be a mobile device. So a lot of our schools don't have those. Expense. A lot of the apps are paid apps. Not all. There's some free ones. We're going to look at some free ones today that are really good. But to buy an app, now that we have these devices, then we're going to have to purchase that app for all of the devices. It can get expensive. The content, a lot of virtual stuff that we're seeing created is for gaming. There's more and more education stuff all the time, but making that connection to what it is can sometimes be a stretch. We're going to look at some that are really obvious today, and we're going to talk about some that maybe wouldn't be so obvious to connect it to content. And then the last thing is age recommendations. I've read different things, different places. Some places say no younger than 12. I've read where Google doesn't recommend like expeditions for children younger than 7, so we're talking like at first grade level. So there are some restrictions there. There aren't a lot of studies about the effects on the brain with little kids and virtual reality. So that is something that's still being investigated. So there's some things to think about when implementing virtual and augmented reality in your schools. Any questions so far? Alright, so let's get to it. So like I said, we're going to give a quick overview of some of these and then we'll give you some time.
So we're just jumping across kind of the tabs or the guidance at the top there. So catchy words is the first one I'll talk about. I'm just going to real quick talk about it because you guys are going to get the hands-on playtime. That actually is located right over here.
Has anybody seen this? Catchy words?
Okay. This is pretty good for primary, elementary. It's a word game set in augmented reality, so you're going to be able to see our physical room all the way around you. There are going to be letters that you'll have to then go catch, and then it will place them in a word, like a spelling word, or you can create a custom word list, like for vocabulary words. If you're working on certain content, you can certainly create your own customized list as well, too. So on the site here, there's just a quick video kind of showing a demo of it. Relatively new app here. Again, there's our link to our checklist. There's Joni's little guy actually demoing the Catchy Words app as well there too. So super easy for even really young kids.
So he was 4 at the time. You can see that he physically has to move around. His favorite studio was Flash. So he input the letters.
I got it!
It puts it in the bubble.
Where does the L go in Flash?
Where does the L go? So now he got the L, and now he has to put it in those boxes, and he didn't get it.
Oh, it's in there. You gotta get it in there.
So it involves physical movement, getting your kids up, moving a little bit more too, and also letter recognition, and then of course being able to put it in the right spot in the word. So he put the L in the wrong spot in Flash, and then he had to try again and make sure he put it in the right spot. So that's Catchy Words there. Just a couple quick curricular connections, that's hard to say. Obviously letter recognition, spelling, I said you can bring in like custom word lists like for vocabulary, phonemes, and that kind of stuff too. So great app for lower elementary students.
Did anybody go see Jamie Donnelly yesterday? She's awesome, and I learned this from her. And she was telling the story about how her daughter has dyslexia, and the spelling was really hard for her. But when we start putting spelling lists in this app, the brain science tells us that when kids are moving and physically making that movement in connection with putting those letters in that spot, that they remember it better. And she said she made that connection with her daughter, that this really helped her when it came to those spelling lists. Instead of just writing it out, 3 times, for her, that movement really helped trigger that memory.
Underneath this one is not one that we actually have with us here today, but if you want to scroll down, Joni, I think this is where our virtuality is. If you download this app, you can go ahead and I think get it to work off of the, there's a graphic right underneath there, but it's actually a t-shirt that you can purchase and then wear, and then the code that's on the front of the t-shirt, of course, gets recognized by the app, and you can literally see the insides of yourself. You can see your heart beating.
Well, it's not your heart.
Okay, sorry, the virtual part that comes up with that. So if you want to play with that, it's Virtuality. We didn't put the link, I guess, to download the app. Yeah, I did too, right there. So if you want to download that app. And I think, from what I saw on the website, you can actually use that picture as scanning rather than using the actual t-shirt. So.
Okay.
Next tab at the top real quick is Google Expeditions. How many are familiar with Google Expeditions or have used Google Expeditions? Okay, we won't chat a whole lot then about this one, so if you kind of know the AR, VR sides of Google Expeditions, a couple quick videos there. They have over 1,100, I believe, different kinds of AR, VR experiences that you can have. There's some goggles. Where's that one at? I think that one's
right here.
Right here in the front. So we do have some goggles here, so if you do have it downloaded on your own cell phone device, you can pop your device into the headset there. Otherwise, we have an iPad just laying there too that you can just do the experience on your own. That also is one that you know that you can do teacher guided mode, so if you have a whole class of students, you can actually guide them through the entire tour that you're on, or there's also the free Explore mode as well too. Curricular connections, just obviously science, social studies. Literacy, I take a spin on it and maybe immerse them into a book study or a book setting. So maybe we're reading a book that takes place in France. So it would be a great opportunity to take a little tour of some things that would maybe then see in France. Math, and then of course the arts, exploring museums and ancient ruins and other things that are around the world. So, and then just some extra links that you can take your time and go through those as well too. You can create your own virtual tour using the Site Tour Creator through Google. We are not showing you that as well today, but there's a link there that can help you go ahead and do that as well too. So that is Google Expeditions.
All right, CoSpaces. Has anybody seen CoSpaces? So CoSpaces is really, it's kind of unique in its field right now. There's not a lot of people that are doing this type of thing, where you can go in. So I sign in with my Google account, and I can create in virtual and augmented reality. So I can drag in the pieces of the world that I want, I can build, and then I can do some coding to make these pieces move, and I'll show you an example here in a second, and then I can view it in either virtual or augmented reality. So let's see. So I'm going to take you to my CoSpaces account just so you can see what I mean, since a lot of you haven't seen it before. I'm going to go to the gallery. Let's see. Like, for example, I'll just click on the Authority. And it always takes longer to load when it's in a room in front of people. There it is. So a couple things that I want to point out. This, I can tell who created it. This is by the CoSpaces team, so this is going to be a good one, a good example. I can share that link. I can remix this, which is really cool, which means I can take this and pull it over to my account, and then I can, like, things that they've coded, I can look at their code, I can make changes in it, I can copy and paste, I can take what they've done and add to it or take away from it to adapt for what I want to do with it. So this looks silly, right? It's party. Kind of move around the space here. So if I had my goggles on the mobile device, I can kind of move around the space more. So think about like story retelling. Think about a setting. Think about some of those literacy connections that we can make. When I can build with characters, I can code them to do certain things and capture important parts of stories. So I'm going to... This is one of those things that has, there's the free version, and then there's the paid version. The paid version has a lot of more options and it has a lot more things that you can do with it. I'm looking at a paid version right now, it's called a Pro account, which means that I have access to some things and some of the features that wouldn't otherwise be there. I've built some things, like I used to be a Spanish teacher, so I built for the Merge Cube, so this integrates for the Merge Cube, a game where, and this is very basic, I was just learning how to do this. So if I had that cube in front of me and I clicked on or selected El Perro, it would give me a flash and say, no, that's wrong, until I got the right answer. And that is, I had to code it to do that. So you can look at my code. So we're integrating some computer science into that as well. So it's a good way to integrate that computer science with different content areas. And some of there, again, this is in the paid version, but there's physics. So you can, like, if a ball drops, you can control like the speed and the height to make the physics of it be like it actually would mathematically. So we've got some mathematical concepts and geometry and all that good stuff. So that's Postfaces, and I put on here because once you play with this, you're going to want it. There is a free trial code. So if you go and sign up with Google and you go to like the account place, there's going to be a spot to put in a trial code. And that will get you 100 seats for 30 days with all the pro features, with the Merge Cube add-on. So I've had some teachers saying, okay, I want to do this book report. Instead of doing a book report on a piece of paper or on a Google Doc, I want to have them do it in here. And so they like timed that with their free trial code. So they got their kids in during that 30 days. The part that's, it's still there after those 30 days, the kids won't be able to go in and edit those things after 30 days. So if you want to try that out, use that code and it'll get you that free trial. There's also the guide. There's a really good Facebook community with people put out examples and things that the kids are doing. Tech requirements, which isn't anything too special. What I really like about Postfaces is that it works on pretty much any platform. The app is really, sometimes the apps can be a little bit more limited. It's awesome. The app has pretty much all the functionality that the desktop version has. And then there's some lesson plans that you can take. And they divide them into STEM and coding, social sciences, literature and languages, and makerspace and arts. But I think that a little creativity, you could really expand it beyond those things. So we talked a little bit about the curricular collection. That is hard to say. Curricular connections. The English language arts with some of that story retelling, main ideas, science projects and physics, so you can recreate some of those science things. Social sciences, foreign language, like I showed you that example, I built a game. You can even just make a room where you click on a piece of furniture or different things in the room where it's going to tell you what it is in Spanish. You can import sound files so the kids could like have to put their voice in and do those things. I can see that with EL students as well. Again, art and design, STEM and coding, all of those things can integrate beautifully. All right, now we're going to talk about Merge. Has anybody seen the Merge cubes? Okay. I'll physically, so I'm going to grab one so you can physically see what it looks like. There's a picture on there, but I want to touch it because it's like a squishy foam thing. It doesn't weigh anything, and basically, don't do that to me. And basically, it works like a QR code, where the trigger is this image, and you point your phone at it or your device at it, and whatever app you are in. So let's say I'm in the Merge Solar System app, and you point your device at it, now it looks like I'm holding the solar system in my hand, and I can turn it around and look at it from different angles. There's lots of different apps. This is where it gets a little confusing. So Merge is the company, and then developers could develop apps for the Merge Cube. So there's lots of different apps. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. It was originally a gaming thing. So if you go to like your app store and search for Merge, there's going to be a lot of games that came out. They figured out that education is a really good market for them, and they're developing new things all the time, and there's new things that you can look at, and these are just some of the examples. So with that, they were like, this education market is where we want to be. They now have a Merge EDU platform. So there's the Merge Cube and the developer apps, and then they developed this platform that integrates those apps into an EDU, like there's lesson plans using those different apps. You can be all within the platform and not have to download all the different apps to make it work. So if I want to do a solar system, I don't have to download the solar system app. I would just have to have this merged platform and that one app on my phone. Again, this is a paid thing, but you can, again, get a free trial for that. And I have the paid one back there on that iPad, so if you want to check it out in the different lesson plans, those are all back there. You can get access to all the paid content today. Do you have a question?
So to use the goggles, you'd have to put the phone in the, is that how you do it? Put the phone into the goggles?
Yes, if you want
If
to
you
use the
want to
goggles
use
in VR.
goggles.
But I don't have to use the goggles, I can just hold it in my hand
Okay.
and do that as well. So some of the apps, some of the lessons that they have on there is the virtual dissection. They're looking at different layers of the earth. There's lots of anatomy ones. I have one that physically looks like you're holding a beating heart in your hand, which is always a good example to show like administrators when you want to buy this because they can't argue with that. Like that's cool. A cool one that they have is called Moments AR, and this is for social emotional learning. So it gives like some verbal prompts for different emotions and describing some of those things. These are paid apps, so these I don't believe are in the EDU platform, but there's one called Shapes 3D and Shapes Geometry, and these are phenomenal in terms of mathematics. Math is always a hard one, like making those connections. This one with geometry, you can draw those shapes, you can hold them in your hand, you can cut vertices and all, it's really cool. And then if you haven't registered to win that, do that. So I'm actually a Merge ambassador, which means that I can give you away free stuff. So if you fill out that form, it goes to the people at Merge, and they'll pick the winners and send it to you, and then they'll send me a copy of it. Sarah actually won one time, so they actually do it.
They really do.
They might find your information, I mean, that's possible, but there's a possibility you could win a Merge group about this. So this little guy I think it costs like around $15. But you can also, they don't encourage this, but you can print them off and get that same. It's just, as long as you have that image, it's going to trigger it. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Is there another platform besides Squarespace to create content for the industry?
Not that I know of. So do you know of any other one for creation? Unless you're like a developer.
Is Metaverse? Have you heard of Metaverse?
Isn't that like a part of?
It's like an augmented reality creator thought. I don't know if
If it
Oh, I
Not
don't know
those
that.
with
Sorry,
merge,
I meant in general.
Yeah. So some curricular connections with this one, we put some like actual one of the apps that can go with it for science. There's Cellular AR, so it looks like a little forest scene. There's an animal, there's a lake. But if I click on the deer, it's going to bring up a animal cell. And then if I click on the nucleus, it's going to bring up the nucleus of that cell and the different parts. So you're holding those different cell parts in your hand. And then if I click on the tree, it's going to bring up a plant cell. Galactic Explorer will be the solar system. HoloGlobe is for weather, and it has like real-time weather data, so you can look at weather patterns around the globe. Dino Digger, my 5-year-old loves this. Like it's a fossil that you can like chip away at, and then it brings up the bones, and so that's more for little kids. And then Anatomy AR is the one. I think that's a 99-cent app that you can hold the heart or the brain or the lungs in your hand and look at them. The math ones we talked about, and then the social emotional one. I know I'm talking really fast, but. And then the last one we're going to look at in here is the Oculus Quest, and I slashed it with the Oculus Go. Have you seen these? Sarah, will you hold it up? So this is kind of like the latest in hands-free immersive virtual reality. And what I mean hands-free is like untethered. You're not tethered to a computer. So the systems before, the Oculus, the original systems, which Oculus is owned by Facebook, which I learned, you'd be tethered to a computer. You'd have with a really amazing graphics card, and it's a really expensive computer. And then you have these, what do you call those things?
It would form a perimeter for you.
Yeah, like little.
Which was like an invisible kind of perimeter that the computer had to establish the perimeter for you.
So I have some markers around me to establish my perimeter so I can go in or out of it. And there's just a lot of cords and tethers. This is the newest in the hands-free, where I've got these two controllers that I hold in my hands to navigate the space, and I've got my headset on that has audio in it, and it's got all of the computer within the goggles, so there's nothing that goes inside the viewer, it's all inside there. And this is something that the agency just got. And we have a few apps loaded on there. Again, it's a cost thing, like all of the apps are not cheap. I mean, probably $10 I think is the cheapest one. So we have a couple of them loaded on there for you to check out. Again, this is going to be one that's one by one, but please come up and check it out. There's an Apollo 11 one, which it takes the original audio from the Apollo 11 launch with like Buzz Aldrin and what's his name? Neil Armstrong, thank you. And puts it in virtual reality. Like you're in this space shuttle and you look to, and these guys are sitting beside you and they're talking to you and they'll turn their heads and blink and you can see that it's obviously a computer generated person, but it's very interactive. That's an experience. There's a star chart that has lots of astronomy, ocean rift, which goes under the water, and you can look at different animals. Some social studies ones, National Geographic, and Wonder, or just going to different places on the earth. And then this one is a stretch. Does anybody's kids play Beat Saber? So I had a school contact me last winter, and they wanted to get the Oculus, and can we get this game, this Beat Saber? I'm like, I don't know what Beat Saber is, so okay, let's look into it. And it's like this, do you remember like Rock Band, where you have to hit the token, or that thing as it came across the screen? So it's kind of that idea, but I have lightsabers. And then these things come across the screen to popular music. So I'm listening to Post Malone, and these things come across the screen, and I have to use my hand controllers to either swipe up or swipe down. So I was like, what educational value exactly does this have? Well, they were doing an exercise unit, and the gamers wanted to prove that gaming wasn't just, they could get exercise while they were doing that. So we were able to get the Beat Saber purchased for them, and they played that, and they would like track their heart rates and graph it, do some of that scientific stuff, but they were using the virtual reality Beat Saber game. I thought that was pretty clever.
What did the research show?
The research showed that it did elevate their heart rate, but not as significantly as like running around the gym. I don't know what it was, like 5 laps or whatever. So.
The last tab up there is just, we're going to kind of all come back together for maybe 3 to 5 minutes at the very end. There's just a quick Padlet there, or maybe you can kind of fill this out as you go and kind of explore some of the AR/VR tools. But just jot down ideas of how you could see utilizing maybe this tool also within other curricular areas that we maybe just haven't made connections to up here for everybody. So there's just a quick Padlet for you to go ahead and fill out as you go.
All right, so it's 1:49 and we get done at 2:10. So we want to take like the next 15 minutes for you guys to spend at these stations. Like I said, if you want to use those checklists, go ahead. If you just want to dive in and play with it, go ahead. There's one device that has it preloaded at each one of those stations, but if you'd rather use your own, whatever works for you.
I'll move out of the way of the Oculus, so I'm not trying to put you death as you're getting.
So I'm going to help people over here on the Oculus. Sarah's going to kind of be over here with the catchy words and the, what's that back there?
Merge is
And the merge, and then Judy, our beautiful helper, is going to kind of help with the CoSpaces and expeditions. So feel free to explore as you choose.